So much.
Just a few minutes ago, we got breaking news that according to the Federal Housing Finance Agency, home prices, by its measure, were actually up 0.3% in July from June. So that does ask the question, with the first-time home buyer tax credit getting ready to expire, with those buyers racing to the finish line, to people trying to claim that $8,000 tax credit, should we expand it and open it to even more people? He says yes. That is Georgia Senator Johnny Isakson. Senator, great of you to be here. If housing seems to be improving and the economy seems to be turning a corner, why do we need more spending to get housing going?
Well, first of all, the improvement is relative. You just said an average of 0.3% increase in home values. You have to remember that's off a base of an average 28% decrease over the last 18 months. The housing market's in the tank. 47% of houses in America are underwater. They're worth less than's owed on them. An economic stimulus like a tax credit, which is your tax money, inside of it, incentivizing you to make an investment in an appreciable asset, will move the market forward and it'll accelerate the recovery.
All right, Senator Brian Sullivan, here's the thing we get from viewers. Why should people who either own their home or haven't purchased a home or don't want to buy a home theoretically fund people who want to buy a home? Why should we just move the money around?
Well, first of all, the tax credit's to the person that owes the taxes. It's not to the taxpayer. You're not talking about a cash for clunkers where you took other people's money, gave it to somebody else to buy a fuel-efficient car. You're talking about giving somebody who has a tax obligation a tax credit against that obligation to invest in an appreciable asset. That's a world of difference.
Yeah, but that's less money coming into the federal government. If instead of just paying all of the taxes that they would normally pay, they're going to get a credit back, which is nice. But that means less money for the Treasury, which means the money has to be made up someplace else.
And in part, it's made up by the 7-to-1 multiplier on the housing purchases because of all the component parts that go in, because of the additional things that are spent, because of the people that are employed. There's a 7-to-1 economic multiplier. Government generally prospers when economic prosperity is rising. That's where you get your revenue from. Just by raising taxes or lowering credits is a false apparition.
But, Senator, we already have a massive buying program going on to keep mortgage rates low. We already have incredible tax breaks on mortgage interest, up to $1.1 million in home debt. And you add on, like, to buy energy efficient appliances for your house even. Why do we need more incentive for somebody to go out and buy a house?
We've had 4 recessions in the last half of the 20th century that were debilitating. All of them, housing led us out. Housing led us into this one, and it will lead us out. You can protract the recovery or you can accelerate it, and accelerating it makes sense for the American people.
But won't this just defer the inevitable necessary home price correction? Once the $15,000 expires, which is the amount that you want, won't it eventually happen anyway?
Well, it's the $8,000 that's expiring, first of all, not the $15,000.
No, but you're advocating for $15,000 tax.
I am.
Right.
Which equates to precisely what the government did in 1975 to return a housing market that was almost as bad as this one back to full recovery. So it's a matter of incentivizing the recovery, moving forward purchases that might be in the out years, getting the housing market moving again so that every other thing, stabilizing home values, stabilizing equity lines of credit, stabilizing families, happens now.
Let's move on to TARP if we can. I know there's been some move out there, and I know you signed a letter basically saying to Tim Geithner, hey, when the TARP authorization is done, give any remaining money back to the Treasury. Don't extend the TARP program. You signed off on that letter. Why do you think this is a good idea?
For the same reason Bank of America and BB&T and most of the banks are trying to pay back their TARP money as fast as possible. We did the right thing to stabilize the financial system in September of last year. It was the right thing to do. Now that it's stabilized, now that there is some stability in the marketplace, we don't need the government running the banks. And so I think it's best to judiciously end the TARP program by not creating new programs with money that's paid back or by deploying the last of those assets that are in the bank.
But, Senator, do you want the government to wade deeper into the housing market when many would argue it was the government's involvement in the first place encouraged people to take on too much risk?
Well, I don't argue the fact that those that created the subprime market, affordable housing requirements, made Fannie Mae buy loans that they really didn't want to buy. That was wrong. But that is totally different from telling an American taxpayer who invests their money in an appreciable asset that they reside in as their home to give them a credit to incentivize to do that.
What do you say
to two entirely different things.
Senator, what do you say to renters then?
What I say to renters?
Yes. They would not benefit. They would not benefit from that tax break.
Well, they benefit in a lot of ways. One, a stable housing market, and many people who are renting, and I don't want to get into labeling people one way or another, but a lot of people employed in the housing construction market are more often than not renters than they are owners. It helps them to have a job. It helps them to have construction going. There are benefits that surround around the housing investment that's not true with any other investment by the American family.
Senator, it was good of you to be here. Thank you, sir.
Great
Senator
to be
Johnny
with you.
Isakson
Thanks.
of Georgia. Thank you.
All right, still to come this hour as we debate health care reform. Some